Hello, I'm Joyce Woodworth. Welcome to the Spirit of the Heartland. Who would have thought that selling a bag of bolts or fasteners like this one in a plastic bag would lead to a billion-dollar business? Well, that's just what happened. Today, fasteners of all sorts, along with many other industrial items, are sold in over 2,000 stores across the nation. Like any American success story, it all started with a dream. Today we're going to hear the story of the Fastenal company and how that dream turned into a livelihood not only for the founder but for thousands of people.
When Bob Kierlin was 11 years old, he helped his father out in his auto parts store. There he observed people walk away disappointed when they were unable to purchase an odd-sized bolt or fastener. So he drew up a plan for a vending machine which could dispense various types of fasteners, could be placed in convenient locations, and accessed easily by more customers. By the time he reached his late 20s, he put his plan into action, only instead of a vending machine, he started with a store. His dream at the age of 11 was for 2,000 vending machines scattered across the country. Today, instead of vending machines, there are 2,000 stores selling fasteners as well as other industrial products across the nation. Fastenal Company began in a small building in 1967 on Lafayette Street in Winona, Minnesota. Bob Kierlin rented it for $50 a month and brought in his friend from high school, Van McConnon, to help sell the bags of bolts or fasteners. The 10-pound bag of fasteners was called the Farmer's Mix and could be purchased for $2.45. The first ad taken out in the newspaper said the store, in the heart of handy Winona shopping, would appeal to everyone from farmers and industrial buyers to hobbyists and citizens. Only 7 people responded to that ad, but a mighty niche in the fastener business began in that little store. Bob Kierlin and Van McConnon soon brought in 3 more partners. Jack Remick, an engineer who worked with Bob at IBM in Rochester, Steve Sloggy, another Cotter High School classmate who was in the insurance business, and lastly, Mike Gostomski, also a classmate who worked for Winona Heat and Ventilating. Mike, along with 3 of the partners, reminisce about their early beginnings in Fastenal.
I'd look at the Farmer's Mix, which he was marketing, which was probably, 10 pounds of fasteners, 15 pounds of fasteners in a plastic bag?
Yeah.
And sitting on the counter there, and you'd buy this. And I couldn't figure out how anybody would ever want to buy that because nails, fasteners such as that in the construction business, they always get mixed up. And then maybe about once every 3 months you sweep them all up and throw them in a barrel and sell them as scrap. And now he wanted to sell me a bag of scrap.
We basically started with no inventory other than what was called at that time a farmer mix. The only way to make money in it is you buy large quantities and then rebox them. It was a chore of building inventory, and it was a very costly one, and that's actually was my job, is to sell and then take the flack when the bills came in, but that was the only way to do it. So in a one-man operation it was a little difficult. However, through the genius of Bob Kierlin, we knocked a hole in the wall between our store and his father's auto parts store and have a long cord on the phone. So when I'd make a delivery, the phone would go over next door, and BK's father would answer the phone and take messages and things, and also serve walk-in customers while I was gone.
We were extremely frugal, and since we didn't have a lot of cash, we didn't have shelves, everything was on the floor, and we were all still single, so Steve had a house he had bought and was, I think, renting out to college students, and he took Van in, so it was Steve and Van the college students and 6 ducks in the basement.
I'm Steve Sloggy. I had the good fortune of growing up with Bob throughout grade school and high school, and I was the third person that Bob talked to relative to founding a company that sold nuts and bolts. And we definitely had a difference of opinion about the success of such a project. But we persevered, and that was, of course, back in 1967. A little bit on the name, rather than some of them had the original idea of lightning bolts, at which time 2 of the 3 investors said the money's off the table if we call it lightning bolts. But anyway, the idea of the vending machine was certainly there. And I believe we had discussions saying, well, rather than spending many, many thousands of dollars putting the machine in, buying the machine, making it, why not have all the nuts and bolts fasteners and let's stock the store with a person. We can get a person a lot cheaper.
Came up with the idea of selling everything that anybody would ever want in a threaded fastener, and kind of got diverted because I thought of doing it through a gigantic vending machine that we then spent some years thinking about and designing and building, which never worked, but the store did work. And that was because we replaced the vending machine with Van McConnon, and he was adequate replacement for that.
Well, Bob, we've got the story now pretty much up to when you started on Lafayette Street. But tell us, when did you actually start making a profit from that little store?
I think by the end of '69 is when we started breaking even and saw the potential, because I know that's when we converted from being a partnership to a corporation. We had our second store in Rochester. I was still working full-time at IBM and coming to Winona every weekend to do the bookwork and things. But we saw a place that was for sale in Rochester that sold contractor supplies, and so we thought that might be a potential second store for us, and we bought it, all with borrowed funds. We didn't have any money. The bank was good to us, and we learned from that too, because we after that we didn't do any more acquisitions. We started opening our own stores, and what we had discovered at that case was that when you acquire a business that's been for sale for some time, all the good inventory has been sold off and you're left with all the dogs. And we didn't like that. So after that, the next store was in La Crosse.
We put in a branch store in La Crosse, Wisconsin, and I can say that it was a very plush store because the first day I walked in, it was an all wooden floor, and it was like being on a trampoline. So one of the first jobs was Bob Carolyn and I had to get I-beams and go down into the basement and prop up the floor with metal I-beams. So, so it sort of became a jack of all trades very quickly working for Bob. New company in town selling nuts and bolts.
By 1987, there were 50 Fastenal stores in 7 states, selling over 19,000 types of nuts, bolts, and fasteners of all kinds. In 1974, Fastenal's corporate office and distribution center moved from the tiny building on Lafayette Street to a 7,000 square foot building at 374 East 2nd Street, and shortly thereafter moved again to the 23,000 square foot building at 58 Johnson Street. In 1986, a 50,000 square foot building was built on Thoyer Boulevard, where the corporate headquarters remain today.
The biggest problem and also the biggest success for us really came because we understood it wasn't store openings as much as it was people. Finding good people and properly motivating them, and really turning them loose. And that's what we did. We stayed very decentralized, and we still don't have an awful lot of structure here at corporate headquarters. And it's worked.
Well, then, in 1987, something happened. You decided to go public. Do you want to talk about that a little bit, why you went public?
Ultimately, we had 3 reasons for going public. One was that as 5 shareholders of a small corporation, we had a policy that each of the 5 could designate a percentage of the charitable donations of the corporations based on their percentage ownership. And we found that all of us at that time had children, and we were giving our money to schools and education. So we considered, could we do something bigger in that light, and decided that what was started then as the Hiawatha Education Foundation would be funded through a donation of stock from the five of us into that foundation. And when we went public in '87, I believe the foundation sold about 30% of the stock that was in that public offering. Second one was that we had been working for some years at trying to get a way to have our employees get ownership in the company. And the third reason also was we were always short on cash. The company raised I think $3.2 million in that offering, and we were able then to pay off our mortgages and start buying correctly. And we never really ran out of cash, and then after that we just started accumulating cash because we no longer needed the money, but we had to have the money to turn the corner.
Now, I believe that the stock at that point was sold for $9 a share, and I believe you issued 1 million shares.
Yes. If you took that $9 share and adjusted for splits, I believe that would be something around 17.5 cents now.
Wow.
It's about a 200 to 1
200 to 1.
Yeah.
1,000 shares of stock purchased at the initial offering for $9,000 would have been worth $1,878,000, calculated on December 31st, 2005.
Yes, people that got in on the original offering have done very well.
Mm-hmm. You became a state senator in, I believe, 1999.
Yes.
All right. Then you had to obviously turn over the running of the company to someone else. Let's talk about that, the transition from you to Mr. Will Overton.
Mm-hmm. Well, we have a general policy of trying to develop our own people. And of course, Will was a great example of that. You know, he started as a trainee and then as a salesperson and managed stores and managed hubs and did it all for us.
I started with Fastenal in 1980, so I've been here basically my entire adult life. I started when I was 21, so I've been here, I guess, 28 years.
So you were here before the company even went public?
Yes, long before the company went public.
Well, how did you start out?
I started out in the Winona warehouse. There was actually only two of us at the time. One guy ran it and I was the assistant. And I only worked there for a couple of months and then moved into store operations, became a store manager and then a district manager. I was the 35th employee, so...
How many employees do you have?
We currently have, I believe, 11,500, and about 1,400 of them work here in Winona in this facility.
Well, let's talk about Fastenal today. What's the biggest change that you can see from 1980 to today?
Things that have changed, our distribution model is completely different. We have 12 warehouses and 300 semis and all the movement of product. We have fantastic training for our people, great computer systems, a very complex distribution machine compared to what we had in 1980.
Fastenal has become the largest fastener distributor in the nation. In Winona's distribution center, product comes from various vendors across the nation and is stored along with $25 million worth of inventory. Over 300,000 items are stored here, including not only a large array of fasteners, but other product lines as well, such as power tools, janitorial supplies, and safety products. This gal is pulling pre-packaged drill bits to fill an order for one of Fastenal's 2,100 stores. Winona's distribution center can process up to 16,000 requests per day and package up to 50,000 boxes. Barry Tittner, receiving manager of the distribution center, explains to us their complex barcode and sortation system.
All of the packages that originate from our order pulling or our receiving department make their way to sortation, where they pass through our 128-gate automated sortation machine. Each box has a barcode on top which will tell the system what gate the box needs to kick off into. Based on the speed of the belt and the spacing between the boxes, the sorter can track each package as it proceeds along the belt. When the box gets to the gate that store is assigned to, the arms that are controlled by pneumatics fire and knock the box into that respective gate. Each sortation employee is equipped with a RF radio frequency scanner. Every box that's placed inside our composite pallets needs to be verified to that particular pallet ID. A scan to the incorrect pallet ID will prompt the user that a mistake has been made, and that box may be then scanned correctly. With diversity in the product offering comes the necessity to generate new and innovative ways to handle product that's small. In this picture, the employee is sending bags, smaller bags down the line. Each of them still has what we call routing ID barcodes on top, which will indicate which gate that particular product gets kicked off into. So this machine can handle tens, thousands of boxes every day for each one of the stores we service.
The kinds of products held in this 176,000 square foot distribution center represents 95% of the products sold in the 2,000 Fastenal stores. The other 5% of their products, mostly fasteners, are manufactured in Winona's manufacturing plant, one of 3 in the nation.
We manufacture just under 5% of what we sell. And the products that we manufacture are all specials, things you can't buy off the shelf. So say someone has a printing press that was made in Germany 30 years ago and they can't buy parts for it, we would take the part, reverse engineer it through our metallurgy lab, and then produce the parts to rebuild the machine rather than buying a new machine. And that's just an example that we've done, and there's hundreds of examples like that.
Do you just have one manufacturing plant?
No, we actually have 3 manufacturing facilities, one in Modesto, California, one in Indianapolis, and one here in Winona.
We do around 3,000 different jobs per month. Our average run size of parts would be about 150 parts in a given run. So it's very short run, very safety critical. Some of the industries that we serve are power generation, the gas and oil, pulp and paper, heavy construction, chemical processing, most things that run 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Fastenal uses about 50,000 pounds of raw material each day to produce these industry-special fastener needs. Precise equipment is used to cut, shape, and mold heavy steel and lightweight titanium. This flange cutter, for instance, cuts a perfect circle at 60,000 psi's of water pressure. The round disc will be used for pipelines in the oil industry. Bolts or fasteners that are 3/4 of an inch and above require a hot forming process by essentially a blacksmith using modern-day equipment. This steel rod is heated to 2,000 degrees by an electrical induction coil. It is then inserted into a forging press where 300 tons of force forge the bolt into the correct size. After the bolts have been forged, they are brought over to the treading machine, where grooves are individually spun into the steel fasteners. These specialty bolts or fasteners can be purchased through the local Fastenal store, however, will not be found on the shelf as a regular item.
They generally sell the same things in every store with a different product mix, and it really depends on the customer base in that market. Some markets you'll have heavy industrial, some markets will be construction, agriculture, logging. So we try and model the store to the local business rather than saying, here's what you're going to use. We say, what do you use, and we'll stock it for you.
What's unique about the Winona store?
Winona has a lot of really good industrial base. You know, we have Benchmark Electronics, big customer. So Winona is probably not even typical. Winona has a better industrial base than most markets, and it's actually very diverse. There isn't one strong manufacturer that runs the town like you would have in an automotive or maybe some other industries. So Winona's been a great market for us. We've been here 40 years.
Well, this store is considered a CSP3 store, and CSP stands for Customer Service Project. It's a project that Fastenal instituted, it's been about 4 years ago now, to upgrade the appearance and product offering in each one of our stores. And in that was CSP 1, 2, and 3, and 3 being the latest, greatest, and that's what we're in here today, is in Winona. And the store occupies about 15,000 square feet. We have everything from fasteners and welding supplies and cutting tools and plumbing supplies, electrical supplies, power tools, hand tools. There's different sections. We have the tools section, material handling, electrical, welding, all the fasteners across the back wall. In fact, fasteners only represents about 50% of what we sell here in the store. A lot of construction type fasteners. So we're a full service industrial supply house. What you see behind me is our fastener center, and it basically is from one end of the building to the other. And included in this fastener row is about 52 or 5,300 different fasteners, ranging from grade 2, 5, and 8 bolts to stainless steel, metric stainless, nuts, flats, washers. Basically, whatever type of fastener you need, we should have in these bins behind me. We do get a mix of customers. We get everybody from the retail traffic, somebody fixing their garage door or their lawnmower, up through the major contractors here in the area that are doing commercial construction, as well as a lot of maintenance accounts for the different companies across town, and also manufacturing. Many people will come to us and help them try to figure out or get help on a project that they have, or a certain fastener or a certain type of product that we carry that might help them out on their project. We also encourage people to come in and walk around the store. There's a lot of products in here that they may see that they don't realize that we carry, but we do. And but of course, if you can't find anything, we encourage you to come up and ask, and we'll either find it for you, get it for you, or figure out what you need.
Now let's talk about your global possibilities. When did Fastenal go global?
We really first started going global from a purchasing standpoint. We recognized that if we want to bring high-value products to our customers at a competitive price, we needed to look outside of the United States. So we started traveling to Asia in the early 90s. We hired our first personnel in Asia in the late 90s to start sourcing product. And then in early 2000, 2001 timeframe, we opened a store location where we're actually selling in Asia. And then the following year opened one in Europe. So currently our real global opportunities are still the biggest part is purchasing. We have an office in Shanghai, China, and in Kaohsiung, Taiwan. Chinese office has about 140 employees, and the one in Taiwan has about 10 employees. So we're always looking to expand our business and bring high-value products to our customers.
Well, Will, you stated earlier that Fastenal was really just getting started, and I can't believe that. Can you clarify that for us?
I really believe we're just getting started, because I've seen, what you have to understand is that I've seen the company go from $2 million in revenue to just about $2 billion. This year we should surpass $2 billion. So we're 1,000 times larger than we were when I started. So to sit here and say that we could become maybe 5 or 10 times bigger, 10 to 20 billion, that's very believable. The market that we sell into in just the United States is estimated at $140 billion annual. So we're roughly a 2%, under 2% player. And we have a great base, we have great distribution, good quality people. There's no reason we can't continue to grow if we execute. So we really believe, I believe the future, and I think most of our team believes, is that we're going to continue to grow for many years and just take market share.
Well, let's talk about the future of the company. Where do you see the future of this company going?
Future is only limited by how many more good people we get, and how well they get excited about making this thing work. You know, the market potential and the product line that we have suggests that we're only about 1% market share just in North America. So there's a tremendous amount of potential, and the whole secret is believing in people and giving them a chance to perform. And you know, I think one of the real highlights of seeing the last 10 years in this company has been the development of our Fastenal School of Business, and the way that has been successful in training and developing our people. You know, I oftentimes get asked, how can you continue to grow with the structure that you have? You have to keep adding, you should add more people at corporate. And I say, no, the company is just a set of concentric rings. And there's this very small ring back here at Winona in the center. And then you have the regions, and then you have the districts, and then on the outer ring is all 2,000 plus stores. And as long as you get enough good people out there that are capable of making good decisions, and you empower them to make decisions, you can have the number of decisions made every day keep going up exponentially, as long as you keep adding people exponentially out there that are capable of doing it. So, you know, that's the whole secret. It seems simple, but it really is.
So you would say that's your number one reason for your success?
I think it is believing in people. Yeah.
Great. Well, Bob, I'd like to end the story of Fastenal with you. And I am very curious about the fact that you have dreamed a dream when you were a young boy, and you have seen the success of that dream become a reality in your hometown What has that been like for you?
Well, it's been extremely gratifying. You know, I really do love Winona. I always have. I remember a lot of people saying that Winona is the type of place where you grow up, you go away to college, and you never come back. And I think a lot of my friends came back or never left. I think in retrospect, with the exception of 2 years in the Peace Corps and 5 weeks in a hospital up in St. Paul, I've never been away from Winona for more than 2 weeks at a time in my whole life.
Wow.
I just love it, and to see what the people of Fastenal have been able to do by making this so successful, and what it does for the economy of Winona. I think our payroll here in Winona is somewhere over $50 million, and I know we're the largest employer, and our people engage themselves in all of the clubs and societies and churches and schools, and it's really very gratifying to see that have happened.
Great. Well, we are so fortunate to have you, and I want to thank you so much for sharing your story of Fastenal with us.
Well, glad to do it anytime.
And thank you for joining me today. Please join me again next week. Till then, enjoy the Spirit of the Heartland.